Hello there, my name is Vanessa Smedley and I'm a painter. Well, we all know what today is. It's Friday. So today we're going to paint this nice little bat right here. Just absolutely adorable. Some people think they're spooky. Personally, I believe they are just one of God's lovely creatures. So we're going to paint this on black paper with metallic watercolor. So let's do this. Here are the materials for today. You can pause and screenshot, or they are listed in the description of the video for you. I'm going to be using a lot of my Paul Rubens metallic paints today. So I'm going to start out with Crepe Myrtle here, and we're going to use a lot of this for the background, and it looks purple, but it actually turns out to be quite a very subtle blue. So I am going to go ahead and paint around the entire bat very gingerly with just plain water at this point. If it starts drying out, I will add more water, and what I'm going to do when I get all the way around the bat is begin to drop in some of that Crepe Myrtle color closest to the bat and all the way around it, and we're just going to make it a very subtle kind of blue glow around him. And so here I begin dropping in that color, and like I said, I mean, it looks purple on the palette, but when you get it on that black paper, it turns blue. So I'm adding more pigment closest to the bat, and as it gets farther away from the bat, I am adding more and more water, or really in this case, less and less pigment. So that will give kind of a faint glow that tapers off towards the ends or fades out. That is how painting on this black paper with metallic works. The more pigment you add, the lighter it is, which is the complete opposite of normal watercolor, because you usually paint light to dark. Where the more pigment you add, the darker it is, and this is the absolute opposite. And here I'm adding in more of that pigment in certain emphasis areas where I want the eye to be drawn, and then I give it a spray with my water bottle to make sure that that paint is just continuing to flow and be smooth. And now I'm noticing there's some water pooling around the edges, and I don't want that to run back and cause some cauliflowers, so I'm taking a shop towel and I'm dabbing up the excess water around the edges, and kind of even really doing that in the blue area too, because I want that kind of to have a little bit of a mottled texture and to fade out. So I'm doing it only towards the edges of the blue. I'm also going to use my Fine Tech metallic palette here, so I'm starting out with some orange copper, and then I'm going to actually make another pool of orange copper, and then I'm going to add some of that ruby in it to make it a little bit of a warmer kind of reddish color. Then I grab some ruby by itself. I'm going to use all those warm colors on the bat wings themselves, so I'm going to start by wetting the entire left wing here with my Escoda Perla number 12, which has a very, very sharp point on it, so we'll get into those nice little details very easily. Wetting the entire thing, and then I'm going to begin dropping in those warm colors. And then I begin dropping in some of that orange copper, and I'm not giving it a flat coat. I'm actually adding more pigment where it's lighter and less pigment where it's darker, because there are certain areas that are lighter and darker, so you want to follow the values on that. And then I'm adding in the orange copper that has the ruby in it around the edges and different areas of it that I feel like needs a little bit of a punch. In the lightest areas, I'm going to throw in some royal gold here, which I didn't show you when I prepared it, but it's just the straight color, so it's not a big deal. No mixing involved. And I'm just going to add it in the highlight areas here. For the right wing, I'm going to go ahead and do it exactly like I did the other wing. And I'm going to wet it first, and then add the orange that has the red in it, and then add the royal gold on top of that. Alright, I have allowed that to dry, and now I'm seeing some spots that are either a little streaky or I've missed some, or either I think they could be a little lighter. So I'm going back in with more pigment, and we're just going to add that in to make things lighter. After all that dries, I think we really could use even more of the royal gold, so I'm adding that in. So this has gotten a little bit streaky for my liking, so I'm going to show you a trick really quick to redistribute the glitter. You can just take it and you can go right back over it with water, and it moves the glitter around to the point where it's smoother. And you definitely have to be very careful with this, but it absolutely worked in this case. And the reason it kind of gets streaky like that is because every time you lift your brush off of the paper, it will deposit a little pool of that glitter where you lifted your brush off. And if you're not really paying attention to where you're going with your brush, which I tend to not do very well sometimes, then it will leave those streaks and those little puddles, and that's where it gets kind of streaky. But it is cool in that no matter how many times you touch this, you can redistribute the glitter if you just add more water. Next, I'm going back to the Paul Rubens and grabbing some Symphony Blue and some Pearl Silver White, and we're going to work on the rest of the sky. So in the area of his wings right above his little arms, I'm adding some of that orange, and then I'm adding in the Symphony Blue on the other side and kind of just blending the two together. Then I'm dropping in some Pearl Silver White on top of that, and then using that for highlights on the little hook things. I don't know, are those fingers? Are they claws? I really don't know. But anyway, I'm using some of that Pearl Silver White for adding more detail here. Next, I'm taking a pretty watery mixture of that Symphony Blue and I'm adding in some subtle fur texture. On the tip of the wings here is where it is pretty much the whitest color that there is, so I'm adding in more of that Pearl Silver White than anywhere else. Now that the blue on the body and the claws and things like that has dried, I'm coming back in with the Pearl Silver White and adding the highest highlights on all of those areas. And that's just going to serve to make it a little bit more 3D. And here I'm just using that white to add the details on the bottom of the head and his little chin here. And then we'll add in some of the orange where you can see through his little ears, and it adds a little bit of warmth to that area as well. Next, I'm going to take a tiny little chisel brush and I'm using water to lift out some of the pigment to bring back in the bones that form the framing of the wings. I don't know what the technical term for those are, but anyway, I'm just using water and scrubbing it back and forth a little bit and using a shop towel to dab out that pigment, and it brings the black of the paper right back into view. And for black paper, it is very much preferable to do this than to try to use masking fluid because it is a very, very fragile paper and you will rip layers off of your paper if you try to use masking fluid on it. There's a little bit of shine in this area, so I'm adding in just very watery Pearl Silver White here. Just using the royal gold to add some highlights on some little wrinkly areas. Now I'm using the straight ruby color to add in the veins that you can see through the wings. And you can leave that part out if it grosses you out. I just feel like it's part of the animal, so I'm going to add it. Up until this point, he's kind of been just floating in air, so I'm using dark green from the Paul Rubens set and then fruit green for highlights to add in this little leaf that he's clinging onto. And then I'm going to go ahead and add in some of that green as little highlights and little edge details, just because that green is in there by itself and it kind of weirds me out to have it only in one spot. It was drawing way too much attention to itself. Next, I use a Micron pen to add back in a few of the tiniest little black details, like the veins, the shadows of the veins and things like that. Okay, after the green dried, I just decided I did not love green in this painting because it's just in that one area mainly, and to me it looked so weird and was drawing way too much attention to itself. So I went back through every area of green and lifted it out, which was very easy to do, just time consuming. And then I added it all back in with the Symphony Blue instead. And yeah, he's got a blue leaf, but that's okay for me. I would prefer to have that harmony there than to have all of that attention on the green. Because after all, this is a bat painting, not a leaf painting. We don't want all of that attention on something that's not the subject. And here's the finished painting, all dry and with the tape removed. And as I usually do, I'm going to go ahead and show you this on the tilt so that you can see how the light affects it at different angles. And there you have it, a nice little bat on black watercolor paper with metallic watercolor. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, all of that stuff, because that's how this channel gets to grow. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again in 2 weeks.
Shut up!